I call the member for Moranni.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise to speak on the Planning, Social Impact and Community Benefit and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2025. This bill does multiple things. It will help ensure that we deliver our Olympic Games plan by clarifying the role of the Olympic and Paralympic Games Authority, and to be focused on the oversight and delivering our 2032 delivery plan, and identifies the venues and locations of the legislation. But while that is certainly important to the state in helping deliver the rowing to Rockhampton, with part of one of the banks of the course being in my electorate, it's not part of the bill that matters most to my electorate, Moranni. It changes the wind and solar approvals that has been the hot button issue in my electorate of Moranni. Mr Speaker, one that has been bubbling away for nearly 10 years, and because of that, I want to focus on the rest of my speech on this aspects of the bill. I want to give this chamber an idea of what the communities that surround wind and solar projects have been forced to cop under the previous government, and why these changes are necessary, Mr Speaker. These communities for too long haven't been listened to, haven't been ignored, and with their concerns around quality of life, the environment and their livelihoods to be voiced. I saw firsthand as a neighbouring landholder to a wind factory that is currently held up by the EPBC approval process. I've seen the anxiety, the stress and the toll on the mental health of those that have had these projects sprung on them. These developers would often quietly be in your area finding willing landholders and secure the land for their projects. They then develop the site plan with the only consideration being to the host and not to giving to the neighbours a look in to see what was going on. Most of the developments in my electorate are wind farm developments, approved under the old State Code 23, where wind farm developers were effectively given the free rein. What we saw under the old system was similar to the early coal seam gas industry, where gas companies ignored the landholders and steamrolled their way into communities until the political pressure forced a solution. The very same thing happened with renewables, an industry that became polluted with companies chasing an easy buck, not providing for Queensland, for Australia and for the communities in which they operate. This is a shame, because had renewable development been done right from the start, we might not be in the point where communities that have been burnt from this reckless rollout of renewables want no more projects in their area. As elected officials, it is our job to listen to the people in our electorates and the people of Queensland. Too many people feel like they've been sacrificed at the altar of renewables. Whether it is the people of the Pioneer Valley who found out that they might be losing their homes from the media, or graziers like Smoky Creek, Cantankerous 10, who have been fighting the Smoky Creek solar farm for nearly 8 years, or the countless other landholders who will have to deal with the shadow of flicker, with the constant swirling from the spinning blades and the risk of contamination runoff from damaged turbines and panels. Too often those being impacted by these projects were told the concerns didn't matter because we had to rush to this stop climate change to save the earth, to move towards net zero. The mental anguish, the stress, the impact to the quality of life of those that would have to live near these projects being dismissed. I've watched happy, healthy people turn into skin and bones because of the stress that these neighbouring projects would have on them. These developers expect neighbours to eventually get sick of fighting, and then they give up. All too often, this is the cause because of when this stress starts to kill them, slowly starts to wear their soul and makes it harder to continue. Every day it becomes easier to just walk away and give up. But we're putting an end to this. We're giving communities a say, giving them an opportunity to have the voices heard, ensuring that these projects provide a legacy, don't destroy our natural environment, and actually provide a benefit to the community in which they reside. For too long, developers have given lip service to community consultation. Everybody that's been to these consultations knows that it isn't much of a consultation going on. These sessions are more like lectures, with communities being told what is going to happen, rather than working with them to get something they can live with. By making these projects impact accessible, we can ensure that the community gets some benefit, and we can ensure that these projects are built in the right location, where their environment is going to be unnecessarily impacted. where the surrounding community gets a benefit instead of a burden. In my electorate, Mr Speaker, I now have 6 wind projects being built, almost completed. It was going to be 7 until our government did what we promised, to give communities a say on all new wind farm developments. And we did that for the Moonlight Range Wind Farm when their Deputy Premier called it in and listened to the community and cancelled the project. A wonderful result for the community in Moornish, many of which had no idea that a wind farm was going to be there until the call-in process started. I was recently in Lotus Creek with the Minister for Transport and Main Roads, Mr Speaker, and in Lotus Creek we met with local communities, including the Mayor of Isaac Regional Council, Kelly Vivi, to hear about their concerns about the roads in the area. With 2 wind farms along the Marlborough-Serena range, and no surprise that the impacts on the roads and how each development managed was a key topic. Clark Creek Wind Farm went through a full impact assessment prior to the implement of the State Code 23, and the difference between the requirements of them and the Lotus Creek Wind Farm is terrible. The Clark Creek Wind Farm invested in pullover bays to ensure the safety of cattle trucks and the consistently travelling along that road, to ensure the impacts of construction were mitigated and as much as possible. They had numerous environmental restrictions placed on the project to help manage things like runoff and reduce the amount of land clearing. And while there's a lot of issues with this wind farm, the surrounding community is less opposed to the development because they were consulted. They were brought along for the journey, and while they might not support the wind farm, most of the landholders can at least live with it. Lotus Creek Wind Farm, over 50 kilometres further up the highway, however, was approved under State Code 23. This is an area that should be a koala sanctuary, but we're putting a large-scale industrial project there. And when it comes to koalas, Brisbane stops. But when it comes to renewable energy, koalas, these are nothing. And the other thing is, when it comes to the Great Barrier Reef, the world stops. But when it comes to renewable energy and these developers that run up and down the coast of Queensland, the Great Barrier Reef, it's a nothing. The community doesn't seem to have been considered in this. There's no pullover bays, no consideration for the other side of the road users, including the school bus, which has already had to be repaired with a new windscreen once because of the trucks kicking up rocks into it. There's no additional pullover bays, no thought was put into what happens when a truck's pulling a wind turbine, comes along with a cattle truck on the other side of the road. No community input, and from what I've been told, locals who do get jobs up there are made to feel like outsiders. This isn't good enough. The Labor government's opened up the floodgates to the cowboys in the industry and left the impacted communities out in the cold. Under the Crisafulli government, this is changing. We're giving communities their voice back, making sure the people get their say, making sure that our endangered flora and fauna is properly considered, making sure that neighbours are properly consulted, and making sure that people that are impacted by these industrial developments can have their voices heard. Thanks.